Hello and welcome back. I am 13 and today we're playing another fun deck. So I'm sure you guys are sick of me complaining about me not fixing flip cards. Trust me, I'm sick of talking about it. Those four missing cards right there are the new card Flaxen Intruder. Goldilocks, as you will. So we're going to be playing the Temur free spells list, pretty similar to is it Rhinos or any of those variants, but we're going to be taking advantage of the new rulings with the adventure cards and Goldilocks and the free bears. So first up is Crashing Footfalls, our Rhino generators. It's free, but to spend four, create two 4/4 rhinos. There are a couple of ways to cheat this into play, but hopefully we're just going to be casting this for free, sometimes at the cost of two cards. But we're going to just put in two rhinos, and then we're going to be working with Goldilocks. So it's green for a 1/2. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may sack it. If you do, destroy target artifact or enchantment. But more importantly, its adventure is 7. So if you are new to Throne of Eldraine, you can cast the adventure from your hand. If you do, you put the card in exile, and then you may cast the creature half at any point from exile. While it's in your hand, you can choose to either cast the Welcome Home or the Flaxen Intruder card. But there's some interesting rulings here where the only card that matters is actually the Flaxen Intruder. So if we happen to use Electro Dominance to cast the Flaxen Intruder, we may cast the card without paying its converted mana cost, at which point we have the opportunity to cast the Welcome Home. So I'm sure that we're going to go over a couple of the fringe cases here, but essentially we're going to try to cast Welcome Home for 1 or 7 mana. In my playtesting, we did end up running into a scenario where As Foretold, I don't think was working correctly. As Foretold would only allow us to cast Flaxen Intruder, but Electro Dominance allowed us to cast Welcome Home. Cascade allowed us to cast Welcome Home. So all of that's working correctly, but that's the plan. Then, as we are trying to cast free spells, we are rocking As Foretold. Beginning of your upkeep, put a time counter on it, and then once each turn you may pay 0 instead of its converted mana cost, allowing us to cast those cards with no mana cost on them. And then we're going to be casting Bloodbraid Elf. Again, same thing. If we actually reveal the Flaxen Intruder with Bloodbraid Elf, we get the opportunity to cast Welcome Home. So just a bunch of free casting here, as well as Dreadhorde Arcanist will allow us to cast those spells without their converted mana cost. So just a bunch of cheesing spells. To take advantage of that, we're also rocking Ancestral Vision, just get some cards going. Icefang Coatl allows us to draw a card as well as just having Death Touch. The 3 colors are actually pretty okay in this format, especially with the Prismatic Vista. And then Seasoned Pyromancer will allow us to discard essentially no cards or any of the awkward half combo problems that we're having to basically just draw some fresh cards and try to cheese things into play. Seasoned Pyromancer is just a value draw here. Also a really solid hit off of Bloodbraid Elf. So that's the deck. We're going to be trying to cast free things and putting a lot of power out. This is technically an unfair deck because we're trying to cheese things, but we are actually doing somewhat fair things with our unfair strategy. Never a huge fan of that, but this deck does have some legs. It's existed for a while, and hopefully we're just going to be able to do something about it. Let's go ahead and fix the stream window, and we have a Flaxen Intruder into an Icefang Coatl, then discard our hand to Seasoned Pyromancer. We don't really have a lot going on here. We don't really have much interaction. We can get a better hand than this. We technically have a curve, but it's not good enough. And this is fine. So this is actually just going to be a bolt into a Coatl, into Electro Dominance, hopefully free casting something off the top. If not, we get a Bloodbraid. Actually, I think this means that we're tucking the Bloodbraid, just because Electro Dominance has so much upside for our deck. And it's Valakut. Welcome back to doing kind of fair things in an unfair way. This is going to be a bolt into an Electro Dominance Ancestral Vision and try to find a quick win here. Valakut really shuts off doing fun things, just being big mana and being very deterministic. This looks like a Sakura Tribe Elder. But odds are our opponent's going to get to 7 lands and have Escape Shift before we have something fun to do. Hi, Steve. I called you. All right, so I need to get red and a green here. And then this is going to have to get me a red and a blue. We were going to be going below 18 anyway, so taking the shock here doesn't really mean a whole lot. Valakut math is not very forgiving. Dreadhorde Arcanist without pain, it's mana cost. So Dreadhorde Arcanist will actually allow us to double spell. Yeah, this is our fastest clock, so we're going to put the Arcanist down. And we actually look a lot like Rug Delver at the moment. Trample is oddly relevant versus the Steve, so I'm expecting a sack here. Then I get to Electro Dominance into Ancestral Vision. Then I can actually Ancestral Vision again, but drawing 6 cards when we're dead in 2 turns is not great. Alternatively, attacking, bolting the opponent. Electro Dominance for 1 is going to add 5 damage to the table. Opponent goes down to 9. We need a Bloodbraid into a Bolt to be able to close out the game. I guess it does determine... Alright. Fair enough, opponent. It doesn't look like they have a piece of 2 mana ramp, although paying cost typically means they do. Yep, there's an Explore. And no land. Okay, we might actually have a window here then. Just need to take a look here. I don't think opponent being at 13 or 14 really makes a huge difference. So Bloodbraid can hit them down to 10. If I find a Crashing Footfalls, they're going to be on a 2-turn clock. Flaxen Intruder is going to put 6 damage on the table, which means I need to hit for 2. I guess Dreadhorde Arcanist into a Bolt would put them at 9. Yeah, it really doesn't matter. So I'm just going to get myself a red source here. And actually, what are our 1-drops here? It's just Bolt and the Flaxen. So I can't actually cast either of those, so we are just going to pump this up for 1 more. Alright, Electro Dominance, ping you for 1. And let me mute Slack. We did find the Bolt. Okay. Alright, well, it's your go, opponent. Looks like next turn gets to be Coatl and Lightning Bolt. Alright, so this is when I wish I had some land destruction. Seeing the Ancestral Vision and the... I mean, honestly, that's fine. I'll be able to kill that Bolt opponent. The 4 life gain isn't nothing, but they're going to spend their entire next turn paying the Summoner's Pact cost anyway, so that is a potential just draw card. So let's Coatl, just see if we have any other options. Opponent is definitely slow rolling my triggers. Alright. I kind of want to have a Bolt in the yard. I think that's probably the highest upside, is having an Arcanist be able to recast the Bolt. So let's go ahead and just kill this. And we're going to be pitching a Bolt to the yard, so we may as well do that. Meow. Opponent gets to untap, pay for their pack, see if they hit a land drop, and then we don't have a lot of pressure going on. If opponent's pacting to go get something, I can assume that they either have a second pact or a primetime already in hand. And I can also assume escape shift. Alright, they did find a mountain. Seeing as how they're Valakut, they won't have a Zuza, so Lightning Bolt's kind of worthless here for anything other than reach. And we are finding so many lands. I ran out Scalding Tarn so I could actually just go get a snow-covered mountain, so I'll have Death Touch and thin the deck minutely. Opponent needs 2 land drops before Escape Shift kills us. Now 1. They did miss a single land drop, so that means they rip Mountain, Mountain. And there's a prime time. So that gets to shoot 6 damage to my face, and that's probably game. Prime time having trample means that the Coatl's not really going to do a whole lot here. The attack trigger is going to kill us, so I wouldn't be overly surprised if they kill the Coatl, but it's probably not the correct call. And again, we could have just about anything in hand. Bye, Coatl. You tried. Okay, well, the snow in hand and no Coatl on board, I guess that just means I'll get a dual land here, but likely going to board. There's an As Foretold and absolutely nothing to do with it. Alright, well, Valakut did Valakut things. Force of Negation for Escape Shift. And that's about it. Not gonna lie, it's pretty heroic. Well, Sinkhole can't actually hit a Planeswalker, or they don't run Planeswalkers, and this can't hit a player, so that's pretty easy trim. And we'll just run it back, try to be a little bit faster. Honestly, a fairly bad matchup here. Field of Ruin's probably a decent card, but we are trying to do some fast creature beats, so didn't really want to have to try to mana fix with a Field of Ruin. Stone Rain could also be a potential sideboard card here, just trying to get the most value out of it. Like Bloodbraid even being able to hit Stone Rain seems pretty good. Pillage would have a little bit more reach given the fact that Urza's is real deck. But ended up bringing in Shattering Sprees just because we can free cast that and then get the Replicate triggers to be able to destroy a lot of different things. This is slow with no payoff. This is a horrible matchup, so I'm like way overcompensating for it. This is actually likely a suspend on 1. But then we can get some bears or some rhinos and actually put up a respectable clock, so this seems fine. The bolt only being some reach could be a ship back. Rhinos being able to hit for 8 to 16. If opponent fetches once, we can kill them. So I'm actually probably going to attack Goldilocks here. And opponent has still not decided if they want a mulligan or not. Alright, we will keep, and opponent kept their 7, so ship back Goldilocks, and I'd love to be able to Electro Dominance next turn. I'm going to get a red source here so I can bolt. It's likely going to be a Stomping Grounds, just that I can bolt and then hopefully hit a red off the top. Alright, another tap Valakut. Bolt you. Alright, so I suspend Ancestral. That's going to go off on my opponent's turn 5. If they ramp at all, I'll already be at 6 versus keeping Force of Negation for a... Force of Negation will stop Scapeshift or a Summoner's Pact. I really wanted to be able to suspend this on 1 so it would get gas the turn before we die, but I think it has to be a pitch now. Not ripping the red off the top is likely just going to cost us the game because we won't have our clock on the table yet. And they have a million different ways to ramp. A single explorer isn't going to make the difference, so I'm not countering that. Prismatic Vista. That's a pretty good card to find. Let's go ahead and get a mountain and ship it on over to opponent. Just on the off chance that they have something, I'm going to be doing Electro Dominance on their instep. The 1 damage here will actually make it set the footfalls. No, never mind. They're still on a 2-turn clock. They fetch, so we're good. Otherwise, that 1 point from Electro Dominance would have made a difference. There's a Farseek, so opponent's going to have 4 cards, which means we're dead from 2 lands in a Scapeshift. But we're going to have coverage for a turn, so we actually might be in a decent spot. Rhinos! Ooh, another Force of Negation. That means Primeval Titan is bad for me here, but that's about it. If it has to be a Summoner's Pact into a Primeval Titan, I'm fine. And honestly, another Bolt or a Bloodbraid is fine. Rhino's doing work. Alright, this looks like Scapeshift because they're intentionally getting forests. Valakut cares about the number of mountains that you control, so 100% expecting a Scapeshift here. Actually, no, they're land shy. This is probably a Primeval Titan. Anger of the Gods, okay. 3 damage marked on each. And I'm going to save a Rhino. Alright. That ended up only being a 1-for-1, but still okay with it. We have a Flaxen Intruder in hand. I think that means I want to... They don't have an artifact or an enchantment I want to kill. I think I'm actually just waiting to see if I get another Electro Dominance. The fact that opponent actually tried to 3-card us last turn likely means that they don't have anything here. Alright, well, Thragtusk is pretty good. You can tell Burn's really high in the meta with how much life gain opponent's been going for. Trade in, they get a 3-3. I hit them for 1. That's not very good. I don't even have a Deathfang Coatl, so I'm going to go look for a land here or potentially another blue card. Good consideration for Force of Negation. We don't actually have a ton of blue cards in our deck. Alright, well, I think we're just going to hold. Attacking doesn't really benefit me much. And opponent's going to be on defense, so I can avoid a Scapeshift. They are going to get a lot of zombie tokens here, though. They have not gotten to Stomping Grounds yet, so this Windswept Heath is pretty live for that. Alright, opponent's feeling a little ballsy. This is a good opportunity for them to attack, but they'll at least have 2/2/2s on defense if they crack their fetch land. And they have a Baloth. Alright, well this one probably got away from us then. They have no cards in hand though. Not being able to free cast is so rough. Generic 1/2 isn't helping me at all. If I attack in, they'll just trade off the Baloth. I'm going to attack in and hope that they try to block with the zombie tokens, and then I can just bolt one. Even then, like, this trade is actually even. Okay, I have trample, that works. I mean, they are on top decks, so we're not completely out of this. Like, Electrodominance doesn't fix anything here. Seasoned Pyromancer is still going to be pretty rough. We are dead to a single activation from this Valakut, so I'm going to kill the Thragtusk just to make sure that doesn't happen. They will get a 3/3, but just trying to stay alive at the moment. Misty Rainforest. Okay, that means I can actually hard cast this Force of Negation. I don't think that fixes anything. I can give my Coatl Death Touch. We're not going to win by blocking here. So I have to send my Rhino into the red zone. And then if they don't block, I'll have to run out the Flaxen Intruder just as a chump blocker. This is likely 2 zombies for Rhino, though. Because Field of the Dead has value. All right. We do have some really good top decks, though. We can stop a lot of what opponent's doing. This is just a redraw, but it's not lethal, so I gotta let it happen. Need to make sure I get an island here. Island means I get to force. Then I have Death Touch. Opponent's trying to figure out if it's worth trading or not. If they attack, they have me dead in 2 turns, so I can't imagine that's not correct. Alright, I'd love an Electrodominance or an Asfortold. Bloodbraid technically counts. Dreadhorde Arcanist. Alright, well, with Dreadhorde Arcanist here, I actually have the ability to cast a lot of very important cards in my yard, so I'm going to leave Bloodbraid back on defense because I'm fairly close to winning if I can resolve an attack from the Arcanist. Arcanist can also stop a zombie token in the future, so no reason to just throw him away willy-nilly in front of the beast. I think my winning line is actually Bolt into Yeah, bolt the beast. That crashing footfalls is so tempting, but if I don't bolt, then they can kill my Dreadhorde Arcanist. Either way, opponent's currently dead next turn, so you do you. I guess it would have been correct to run this out as a potential blocker, but they shouldn't have anything with haste. And I still am holding on to the fact I might be able to welcome home it. Stop gaining life, opponent! Didn't anybody tell you it's not polite to continuously gain life? Alright, well, Dreadhorde Arcanist can let me Electro Dominance. I can't actually modify the cost of X, so I can't Ancestral Vision, but that's it. If I attack in, I can get another Lightning Bolt, and that'll get the Baloth out of the way. I'll have a Bloodbraid on table, ready to kill them in 2 turns. Oh boy. Or I just Crashing Footfalls and attack them for lethal next turn. They'll eat my Arcanist, and then I'm attacking for 11. That'd actually leave them alive with 1 point, although I do have the Flaxen Intruder. Okay, I actually want Goldilocks to kill them, so we're going to be doing this. If they actually find a land drop, then they'll have a zombie token blocking as well. Alright, fine. Yeah, the zombie token actually doesn't mean much. You'll just be dead in 2 turns. Let's get some rhinos. Cast you. They went after the Bloodbraid Elf. Okay. That doesn't seem right, but I'm not going to question my lovely opponent over here. Kalani Heart Expedition actually doesn't do much at the moment, although a Mountain does. A Mountain lets them hit my Dreadhorde Arcanist, get a 2-2. Or they could just be ballsy and go for me. Nope. Arcanist going down. Jeez, at this point I should have just suspended this, but that's never the correct line. If I attack here, then opponent just trades. If they block, I'll hit for 7, so they'll die. So they at least have to try to kill a rhino. If they block here and block here, I hit them for 4, and they can crack back for 2, hit me with the... I'd be dead to a fetch land off the top, or Primeval Titan. But I think I've been there all game, so let's just alpha. If they let Goldilocks through, I can hit the Kalani Heart Expedition, and that at least takes a fetch land off the top as an out, away from the opponent. That was like 4 sentence fragments. I apologize for that. Now I think opponent's trying to figure out if the 1 point of damage is worth preserving. If they take 4, they're dead to a bolt in hand. Okay. Makes sense. We are going to yield to that. We do want to say yes. And we're going to blow up the Kalani Heart Expedition. Now, a regular land will keep opponent in it for another turn. A fetch land is going to take away attacking as an out and bolt as an out for me. Alright, they just scoop it up. Veil of Summer doesn't make me hexproof versus colorless, so that doesn't really make a difference. Shattering Spree doesn't seem like it means a whole lot. EE could actually blow up the tokens, but I think we have more tokens than they do. There's no denying it, though. Opponent just did not kill us fast enough, and that gave us the opportunity to win. This matchup is quite bad. That's about the only way we're going to take a match here. Their bolt on the Arcanus is actually what even kept them in the game that long. They ended up keeping 3 bolts in hand, so they actually did respect our creature plan. I don't know if they saw much of our creature plan in game 1, but that is what happened. They also did keep 7, though, so it pretty much just comes down to the fact that they didn't mulligan well. This is so slow. But it is a turn 3 Crashing Footfalls on the draw. That's probably going to be 1 turn 2 slow on its own, but Bloodbraid should actually close the clock if they fetch. Bloodbraid with 2 attacks from Crashing Footfalls should actually be able to close this out. If they're on Thragtusk and Obstinate Baloth, then that might be awkward still, but them adding those cards is what is making it so that they're not killing us, so I'm just throwing a little party that they're treating us like burn when we're nowhere near burn. Alright, opponent mulled to 6. I think I'm just going to take this and hope that their mulligan doesn't work out very well and turn 3 Crashing Footfalls works. Plus, Bloodbraid's fine, and honestly, anything we top deck is going to be great from here. Hey, they didn't start with a Search for Tomorrow or a Valakut. Things are looking a little up. I know I'm not doing anything on 1. I'm 100% not suspending this, so we can go tap land. I do care about the double red and Electro Dominance, though, so I did prioritize the red. But opponent's going to be able to make any of their 2 drops in their deck, Explorers, Steves. That should ramp them for at least a full turn. We also don't have a Force of Negation, so we are stone cold dead to a Scape Shift. At least when the time comes for it. I'm likely going to grab a basic here, just that Coatl will have Death Touch versus the Obstinate Baloth or the Thragtusk. So I'll be at 19, which should put them on needing 7 lands. Or, sorry, 8 lands. 8 lands. At least until I crack Prismatic Vista, but, I mean, that's somewhere down the road in the future. Hopefully it won't come to that. Opponent's taking forever for their potential 1 mana ramp spell. That's why I'm talking about lines that may or may not happen in 2020. Hey, look, there's a Steve. Oh boy. Steve actually poking us for 1 is relevant here. The fact that I don't have a tap land, though, means that I could potentially be doing Footfalls off of Electro Dominance. So that would have Trample. They can still sack this because it doesn't require tapping. But they didn't immediately sack Tribe Elder on my end step, so this is likely a poke for 1 to get me to 18. Cracking this Windswept means they likely have a second 2-drop. Getting Snow-Covered Forest means Field of the Dead is definitely in their minds. Yeah, there's a Farseek that's just going to go get a Stomping Ground or a Snow-Covered Mountain. Yeah, they already had 2 Stomping Grounds. That makes sense. So they poke me here. I crack this Wooded Foothills. I'm dead to Scape Shift. But we got to do what we got to do. That's another crashing footfalls. This is my as foretold. There's a couple like them, but I particularly like this one. And I suppose we will see if we're dead. In steps Zach Steve. Did not happen. Okay, so this might be a prime time. This might be a missed land drop. There's a search for tomorrow. No Valakut yet. Maybe another search? I don't know what's going on over there. Opponent's doing things. I just don't know what those things are. I'd love to top deck a Force of Negation. I'd hate to see one off of the Bloodbraid Elf. There's another crashing footfalls. Alright. Well, cracking that fetch doesn't do anything about the 18 life total buffer. I do need a second red source here. Let's go ahead and spin Bloodbraid Elf. Steve likely going to fog the Bloodbraid and then go get a land. Ooh, that's a pretty decent bolt. I guess it doesn't really change the clock at all, but it at least did something. Alright. So opponent is planning on going for at least a full other turn with that lightning bolt. Which means we should have this lethal. You got trample, buddy. Respectable effort, Steve, but in the end it was in vain. Then free cast another Rhinos. Opponent, I have Rhinos coming for you. I have concerns about being a turn too slow, though. What is the card in your hand? Because Primetime doesn't get you out of this. Scapeshift does. Thragtusk. Yep. Thragtusk didn't do it. I'm a little surprised we stole that. Not going to lie. Don't really think we deserve that, but we will move up to 1-0. The Flaxen Intruder just showed to be slightly awkward and no ability to free cast it, but okay, this seems fine. This, funny enough, is actually probably going to be an Intruder on one, depending on what opponent looks like they're on. Just that we can get a 1-2 out there. Scalding Tarn likely means spell-based. If this is Storm, then they're going to Mana Dork on 2, and then I can just kill it, so Flaxen Intruder, come on down. If I'm free casting anything at this moment, it's probably the Crashing Footfalls. It puts more power out than Goldilocks. I can't even see my Welcome Home. Okay, this might be Death Shadow. Looking a lot like Death Shadow. Yep. Death Shadow confirmed. Crashing Footfalls is mildly relevant versus Death Shadow just because you have Trample, and if you can instant speed it out, you can typically cheese a win. But odds are I'm going to have to shock this into play just to hold up the Lightning Bolt. This looks like a Gurmag coming down. Yep, it did require a Street Wraith for Gurmag. This is probably going to be a Death Shadow then. Wow, all 4 in the top 16. That's actually pretty impressive. I have a Goldilocks opponent. You've seen a third of your deck. This pay cost usually means delving. I'm guessing they're gonna... Oh, guess not. Alright, well, we haven't seen red from them other than the Scalding Tarn. Okay, I was shocking that just in case it becomes relevant, but opponent has a live Stubborn Denial, which means most of this isn't happening. If opponent does actually have red, then we're likely just dead. Can't do a whole lot about Battle Rage with Stubborn Denial back up. But if this is just blue-black... Tell me, opponent, did you really think you'd be pushing Goldilocks tonight? Okay, well, so if I know I'm going to get Stubborn Denialed, I probably don't want to cast As Foretold. If opponent is not actually red, the odds of them killing me here while I'm at 13 is kind of unlikely. They're going to have to go 0 life, and that would mean that they have Phyrexian on life, which would put them on Esper. I do want to be able to get a second red source, so this is going to be the Prismatic Vista. I think I just have to plan on getting Stubborn Denialed and hoping that opponent can't go to 12. And then this sets me up to actually legitimately kill opponent next turn with just Bloodbraid Bolt and the Electro Dominance. Show me Stubborn Denial! I would be an amazing game show host. Alright, well, do your worst, opponent. If you have a fetch land and a shock, you can hit me for 8. They have Snapcaster Mage. They already know what our deck is, but this allows them to play around a couple of things. I would imagine the Electro Dominance goes. The Crashing Footfalls are probably the hardest thing to deal with. Makes sense. Alright, well, only taking 5 here kind of puts me in okay territory. That is a Seasoned Pyromancer. I think I'm just on Bloodbraid. I'm expecting another Stubborn Denial because they just always have another Stubborn Denial, but let's spin the wheel. Icefang Coatl. Pretty good draw there. Flaxen Intruder is mildly awkward. I am expecting a Fatal Push, and with this Bloodstained Mire out, that means opponent can kill me. So I'm going to make them have 2 removal spells and their 3 cards for turn. Which isn't impossible. They might even just be holding 2 removal spells, but that shock means they at least have one for the Coatl. And that means that they're also on Battle Rage, so... Okay. Likely just dead here, then. Show me removal. That was a little bit of the nut draw for them, but what can you do? Veil of Summer, pretty good card here. Relic of Progenitus could be a consideration. I'm notorious for bringing in Rip and Leyline of the Void versus this deck because they typically try to lean on Gurmag Angler, especially in post-board games. So you can get a couple of Gurmag stuck in their hand and they just don't do anything, and you can win games that way. EE is probably a consideration. I want to be able to kill a Death Shadow with a permanent that enters before they actually try to interact with me. If we're looking at Trim, Sinkhole actually kills fish, so probably not going to be boarding that out. The Dreadhorde Arcanist. If they counter our spell and we just get to recast it, probably seems fine. They know we have multiple bolts, so they're likely going to be playing around it. This reach isn't great, and it doesn't kill most of their creatures, seeing as how we have to board out 6 things. I'm probably just going to bring out Bolt. Sinkhole getting countered by Stubborn Denial feels awful, but you can only do so much. And when we're 2 for 1-ing ourselves, counter spells are pretty rough, which is why we have so many Veil of Summers. Might just be a Goldilocks and a As Foretold. What does their curve actually look like? I like that this can hit a non-creature. Yeah, as for told, just a little bit on the slow side. I'm okay to run it like that. The Forest of Negations, I just... 2 for wanting myself to get around a 1-mana counterspell just feels awful. It's so bad. This is fine. I have Coatls, which is going to put them on removal, and Electro Dominance if they end up tapping out to deal with my stuff. I can get some Rhinos. I love casting me some Rhinos. Siege Rhinos, but these guys have actually been pretty good for me tonight. I can see why people like this deck. Inquisition of Kozilek. Thoughtseize. Derp. Yeah, they want to lose life. That makes sense. I'm expecting Crashing Footfalls or the Electro Dominance here. The Rhinos are just so hard for them to deal with. It could also be Coatl. If they are light on removal, I could see them just taking a Coatl so that they don't have to deal with it on board. They try to invest pretty heavily into their creatures, and they have a lot of removal, but if they're light on it, a Death Toucher is really hard to deal with, and we are fairly close to turning on Death Touch, especially with the cantrip. Yep. 4/4 trample, not really what you want to be doing. They don't know about the island, and I need to be able to get something red for Electro Dominance in the near future. This is going to be representing both basic island and basic mountain. So, if we did top deck a 0 CMC spell, that's probably the biggest threat for them at the moment. When in reality, we're just going to put out our little snake dude. They also saw enough of our deck, I might see them bringing in Plague Engineers. Coatl is a big enough problem for them, I could see that. They can also name Baron Rhino, although it's not nearly as effective. Looks like a fish. I mean, they have to exile their entire graveyard, so... Look at that, it's a fish. I guess the more defining attribute is a zombie, like zombie fish. I'd be a little bit more afraid of the zombie part than the fish part, but who knows? Magic's a big, complicated multiverse. Oh, so many lands. Okay, we do have another snow thing I can go get. Opponent knows I can't. Actually, this is awkward because this is actually three other snow permanents, so I can flash in a Coatl and assign it to block. If they have a removal spell, I get blown out. Yeah, I'm going to at least take the hit for 5 here. Even if they battle rage it, I'll only take 10. Which, it's not a healthy life total, but being able to get a third snow-covered permanent out there, so they have to answer both Coatls individually instead of just eating one for free with a fish. I don't have enough resources at the moment with 3 lands in hand to actually start this battle. Yep. That's why you don't do that. Hooray for stubborn denial. A little curious why they didn't do that pre-combat, but whatever, I'm not going to ask questions. Trigger on the stack, I'm going to fetch. I should have done it before I cast it, but... thin out the deck just a slight bit. And they have removal. Oh, no. Thought Scour. Alright. Nothing overly of merit, although Snapcaster Mage is pretty bad at the moment, so... Alright, well, they are heavily representing a stubborn denial here, which means I'm not actually going to be able to resolve the Electrodominance. I am going to try to force them to attack, though, because the fact that they are representing this so hard, they've left it up for a couple of turns, means that they actually do have it and they're not bluffing it. It's pretty easy to leave it up as a bluff for a turn or two, but if you have 4 cards in hand and you're squatting on it, as well as representing the mana turn after turn after turn, it's because they know that this Electrodominance can come down and actually win us the game. So, let's do it. Alright, well, I guess this forces the issue then, doesn't it? Stubbs is now a hard counter spell, so... Show it to me, opponent. Show me Stub. Man, there are some people moving really slow tonight. The only thing opponent could be tanking on here is potentially a Force of Negation or to see if they want to counter the next spell to come out of Electrodominance, but seeing as how they get to see our hand and they force the issue, it doesn't make any sense to let this go. We have 4 cards in our yard. I know some people were stoked about this card, but that barely got pulled off. That does mean fish can't attack this turn, though, unless they have an additional land. It also means they likely don't have a stubborn denial. Bloodbraid off the top. It's not correct to suspend that, though, but when opponent has discard spells, then I'm just going to fire it off so that I don't have to worry about it. That way, another Inquisition or another Thoughtseize. They should at least have 3 more Thoughtseizes in their deck and potentially 1 to 2 more Inquisitions. Because they had to use this Drown in the Loch, they couldn't destroy the Icefang Coatl, so I don't know what's in their hand at this point. I'm assuming there's at least 1 more Gurmag Angler. Potentially Temur Battle Rage. If they had a Battle Rage, no, they would have done it post-combat. Yep. So, Lightning Bolt, Temur Battle Rage, we're dead. Pretty much just looking ahead, never didn't have it. We have enough snow permanents, but we can only get basic, so we'll get an additional red. That is an Electrodominance. I can hit for 4. So still pretty much considering myself dead at the moment. Snapcaster would technically put me at dead. I'm going to have to fire off this Electrodominance just for the ability to not die here. They shouldn't have mutagenic growth, but I guess I could have potentially made that 3. People have been playing some strange things lately. Now, if they had mutagenic growth, they would have just used that Gurmag Angler to kill me here. Alright, I think Bloodbraid is one of the few things that gets us out of this. Of note, if I didn't suspend this, I would have actually been able to free cast it last turn. Shot for 1, had 3 mana open. That would have potentially been a way to get out of it, but I think trying to dodge the discard is still the correct play there, just because they have so many different discard spells, as well as like Snapcaster Inquisition would have been able to take it if they would have prioritized it. Slow roll in the bolt. Yeah. have to imagine opponent was either double queued or doing something else because they were taking a while to figure out some plays that were pretty straightforward. They knew our hand. Overall, though, Temur free spells, at least it's been fun to play. I think that's the biggest thing to note here. The coattles do feel slightly out of place, but when we can actually fix our mana for it and they're able to at least try to fend off something like a Grimag Angler, it seems fine. I do think our last opponent did actually draw a lot of the right cards at the right time, but that's kind of what Death Shadow does, is they just play the tempo game plan and try to have the right answers. This is fine. I would have loved if this could have been a Stomping Grounds, just because I'm likely going to have to go get a Forest with this, but I can... the 2 red for this Electro Dominance is so awkward, but this is a hand I'm quite happy to keep, and we finally want a die roll. So Prismatic Vista is going to get us Forest, and then drop 2 coattles, hopefully just as foretold into... I'm still not exactly sure of this, but as foretold, you may pay 0 rather than play the mana cost for a spell. And Electro Dominance is you may cast a card. It must be spell versus card. We cannot, as foretold, welcome home. Looks like Urza. And a Mox Amber. So this is likely paradoxical outcome. Alright, so I think Rhinos is what the game plan needs to be, just because it'll be fast enough to actually kill our opponent here. It might actually be correct to Flaxen Intruder here, but I just want to draw a card and look for Rhinos. Just because Flaxen Intruder does have the hidden text of destroy target artifact. If this is paradoxical, this is likely a Psy. Yep. That's a Psy. And a couple of 0 drops. So this is going to be fun watching an opponent play with themselves and never really be deterministic. So if you're watching on YouTube later, please do not feel bad about clicking that playback speed button to watch exactly how horribly this goes down and exactly how fast. I can now, as foretold, the Mountain, or the Ancestral Vision, but then I'd have to discard the hand size. No, I'd actually just barely be able to survive. Alright, looking for a Crashing Footfalls. Okay. I'm staying on defense. It's only going to keep Psy back. The Thopter still gets to get in, but trading with a Thopter isn't necessarily what I want to be doing with my Coatl, and this will at least prevent 1 damage as opposed to trade for a token. And there's an Urza, so they can tap 4 mana, Paradoxical, and at that point I'll just pick it up because I really don't like watching my opponent play with themselves. It's something they should do in their own personal free time in the dark, away from people. But they have no cards in hand, so they get a spin Urza. Yep, you can do it, opponent. 3 more mana. Or they're actually going to draw a Psy. Actually, I already want to cash out their artifacts? That doesn't seem right. Okay, cashing out the cheapies. There's a Nicker Wellspring, which means they're also going to sack that this turn, get at least 1 more card draw, then They should only have 2 mana or 3 mana available to them at that point. But like at the given moment, opponent has an active Sai and Urza, and at best, I'm probably going to be putting in Goldilocks' Bears next in step. So this one's pretty much over. Really, really don't want to sit here and watch them figure out what they're doing. Serum Visions put 2 onto the bottom, so they are still looking for a paradoxical outcome. Yep, may as well get in there. You're not doing anything else. Opponent's going to look at my draw for turn. Seems fine. Found a stomping ground. So I can Coatl and Electro Dominance, or I can just Electro Dominance just for my sanity and everybody else's. You can cast Flaxen Intruder, cast Welcome Home, or cast Flaxen Intruder with As Foretold, so you can't cast Welcome Home with As Foretold. This looks like... I'm going to do this, and if opponent draws a paradoxical outcome, I'm just going to call it there. Oh, I didn't leave myself red up. Let's just see what my next draw step is. Opponent already knows we have a Coatl. 4 toughness, man. Makes this so miserable. Alright, well, whatever. We're not going to do it because I didn't leave myself red up. This is more wanting to show off what was going on down there. Alright, Veil of Summer comes in just because they do blue things and this is a free cantrip that's likely actually not good enough. EE will blow up a lot of their little things, so definitely want that. Shattering Spree comes in because the deck is fairly toxic to play against. Sinkhole is one of the few ways that we can kill them. We have to cut a lot of cards. Bolt doesn't actually answer much. Killing a single Thopter isn't very good. Force of Negation probably needs to come in for paradoxical outcome. I'm pretty sure. Cool outcome. I hope I spelled that right. Yep, it's an instant. So they can get around my force, but what are you going to do? If we're doing all of this, then I can probably say get rid of a Bloodbraid Elf and maybe a Seasoned Pyromancer. Just be a little bit more lean and try to interact with the opponent a bit. Lightning Bolt not killing their 3 or their 4 drop makes this really hard. It's part of the reason that I've been favoring Path as my removal in Modern. Like, even back during Hogok days, it answered Hogok. People are just doing unfair things, so it seems to make sense to try to stay on par with that. Alright, well, this is going to be a turn 1 Flaxen Intruder, probably a turn 2 Flaxen Intruder, and opponent's going to be like, WTF. But we have Goldilocks, and we're going to try to use her. Then this can get a Steam Vents. I can try to force something even small, and Seasoned Pyromancer refill. It's not a great curve, but it's my curve. Yes, opponent, please read Goldilocks. It's a fearsome 1-2. I mean, to be fair, we made it until turn 4 last game, and we really didn't do anything, so that should probably go into my report. Alright, Flaxen Intruder, get on in there. We don't want to sack you because there's no legal targets, but thank you for asking. Goldilocks 2. Here you go, opponent. Casting that second Flaxen Intruder might be a little loose, but if they do end up getting out a fairly quick Sai, I want to be able to attack in and still be able to make contact with opponent. They'd have to drop at least 2 Cheerios after a Sai in order to make it so that my Flaxen Intruders can't attack. Opponent's just sitting there like, what the heck? I can't run out my cheap artifacts because of Goldilocks. I need a Steam Vents tapped. Crashing Footfalls. Well, I would like to cast this Force of Negation before discarding my hand to Season Pyromancer, so I'm going to run this out with intent of actually getting an island at the moment. Or another Steam Vents, honestly doesn't matter. But getting a blue source and just hard casting at their first threat. A lot of these decks are running Saheeli. So if their turn 3 is just supposed to be a Saheeli, then I can counter Saheeli and then move on with my life. I can suspend Footfalls, play my land, Season Pyromancer, discard whatever I drew for turn if I don't need to actually use it. Show me Saheeli. Them waiting that long to crack means they probably needed lands. Alright. Mishra's Bauble is a redraw. They are getting value off of this, but I have my plan for my next turn, so I'm just going to stick with it. Which is cash out versus something terrible, empty hand, and get a couple of redraws. This is still a 1-for-1. It cost me mana and tempo, and they got a Thopter out of it, but it's not like I had to pitch. Does leave me a little weak to Paradoxical Outcome if that's going to be their play next turn, but I'm just trying to get by. It's going to be very hard for my deck to get through a Sai if I don't actually get like a turn 2 Rhino. Oh boy, now my Flaxen Intruders can't get in. Opponent definitely had all the 0 drops. Taking a look at what I'm drawing for turn, not like it matters. Another Flaxen Intruder. Okay, that's fine. So let's go ahead and suspend you. Cast you. We'll discard Goldilocks Part 3. There's something appealing about having 9 bears. Too bad it didn't really work out that way. Alright, well, what is my out at this point? Let's take a quick look at the deck. Bloodbraid Elf into Shattering Spree. EE would probably be fine. Rhinos would at least let me get a start on the game, so I think the only world where I don't want to throw these away is if I top deck one of my 2 EEs. Or I guess Bloodbraid and then Cascade into EE. So I'm actually okay to trade 2 Flaxen Intruders for 2 Thopters at the moment. I feel like I am far enough behind that that's a trade that I'm okay to make. Especially because their Thopters are going to generate mana. If they have an Urza. Makes sense. Interesting, they didn't throw this Thopter in front of this one, but that's fine. Sigh, you and your Thopters just attacked a harmless little girl. Hope you feel very terrible about yourself. Opponent is currently up to 4 cards zone. I have 2 lands in hand. Not really the amazing start I was looking for. Even our Coatls are just super weak because they trade with Thopters. Sinkhole would probably be a pretty decent draw, but I don't think we're recovering from this point. I think the decks we want to play against are probably the fair ones, like Jund. Alright, well, Teferi takes Bloodbraid Elf off the table, and I don't really have a firm answer for that. If I get Sinkhole, I probably have to target Sai regardless. He can bounce my Elemental and just remove a creature. Yep. EE for 3 is actually probably my best draw now. Funny how EE for 0 was the only consideration for my attack last turn, and now I want it on 3. Chances of these rhinos coming down after I deal with Teferi, probably not very high. That is a live draw, so that can blow up 3 artifacts at the moment. That'd be the 3 Thopters, get in and kill Teferi. I like that. We're going to replicate 2 more times, so that should be 3. Kind of sad blowing the Shattering Spree already, but Teferi is like my only reasonable way of... Killing Teferi is the only reasonable way I come back from this. Because Teferi stops me from Electro Dominance, it stops me from Suspend, it stops me from Bloodbraid Elf, like... He shuts off half my deck. Yeah, Teferi, sorry bud, you can't stick around. Would have loved to be able to hit his other artifacts, but... Alright, Serum means that you don't have something you're particularly happy about doing, so we still might have a shot. I mean, you may as well... I guess you're blocking, so you don't need to get in. That's fair. I have 2 mountains? Yeah, I have 2 mountains, so... Prismatic Vista's coming out just to thin. I wanted to get more red sources in case I find my other Shattering Spree or potentially my Dreadhorde Arcanist. Inventor's Fair. I should probably mention opponent put 1 card on top and 1 card on bottom. I'm assuming they kept the Urza on top. Now things go downhill pretty quickly. Opponent only has 4 mana at the moment. Alright, well, thinning is not very statistically relevant, but I've got to take anything I can get here. There's another Crashing Footfalls. Alright, well this opponent doesn't have discard, so I'm just going to sit back. If I attack and things die, I can technically activate Seasoned Pyromancer if he blocks with the Construct, but odds are I'm going to bounce and then he attacks me, so... Opponent's going to get 1 more turn. We're going to top deck a Electro Dominance like a boss so that we can shoot down Urza and cast this free Footfalls. 16 power of Rhinos and just kill our opponent. That's the plan. Inventor's Fair, go get Ensnaring Bridge. Seems like a possibility, though. But I'm suspecting a large amount of public shame coming as opponent just plays their deck. This is a Whir. Nexus of Fate. Okay. Yeah. I'm not a fan of Nexus of Fate or Karn. Those both feel like horrible decisions. Paradox Engine. Lovely. Show me something that draws cards so I can move on with my life. That technically draws 1 more card. Opponent essentially has infinite mana at this point. I just need to make sure that... Actually, no, they do. So, 5, cast something off the top. I just need to make sure they don't whiff on a land. If they spin Urza and get a land, there's a problem. Sacked Mind Stone means they likely don't have action, which is the only reason I'm sitting here. But they can activate Inventor's Fair to go get something stupid, and alright. Ever-flowing Chalice with Multi-Kicker. They can use Side of Sack Thopters, like... Yeah, I'm basically dead here. I'm not going to sit here and watch them play with themselves. They're clearly not familiar with the GUI, and we can technically win if we hit our right spins, but we're likely going to give opponent at least one more turn. By likely, I mean we are. So they're just going to spin and then kill us, and I don't want to watch that. That's painful. Goldilocks has actually shown herself to be kind of awkward here. Temur Rhinos was already a deck that was kind of missing something, and doesn't look like Flaxen Intruder is going to be the fix. But, you know, sometimes you just got to play with fun cards, and I wanted to make some bear tokens. They were adorable. Okay, not adorable, but they were bear tokens, and they were magnificent. I'm assuming if I were to do a Mimi home for her, it would probably be with Aurelia, Queen of Bears. That's probably what I should have done, but Temur Free Spells was the deck I've been wanting to pilot for a little while, so happy to give that one a shot. I think what we've learned so far tonight, though, is when Lightning Bolt is bad, you probably can't count out on it being your only interaction. Both Death Shadow and Urza have been our losses. And honestly, if Path to Exile probably would have been fine in either of those matchups, but then you're on Restore Balance, and I'm not really a fan of that particular playstyle. It doesn't mean it's not effective, I'm just not a fan of it. The curve here is actually okay. So I'm going to have to use this to get an island, but everything else kind of lines up particularly fine. We'll see what opponent's doing. If I actually have to bolt a bird or hold it for like a devoted druid. But odds are I'm going to suspend Ancestral into Coatl, and it looks like Tron. Or Bogles. Those were the two decks I first assumed this would be going into. Revealing an island. Their breeding pool, so Infect? Huh. Not sure what to make of that. Alright. Bant Devoted Druid is probably the first thing in my mind, but Infect's likely number 2, with Blue Greentron being number 3. If this is Bant, Teferi's going to ruin our day. If this is Tron, we have a slow hand. Oh, fun. Okay. That probably should have been higher on my consideration list. Guess we'll see if we die here. We'll F6 and see if they fizzle. Summoner's Pact means they'll die at their upkeep. Nourishing Shoal up to 28, so they're going to draw 16 more. I mean, it's only 2/3 of their deck. Okay, that means we're dead. Time for unfair things, apparently. So, Force of Negation comes in. Veil of Summer can be coming in because they're going to have Pact of Negation. Relic doesn't do anything. EE doesn't do anything. Sinkhole doesn't do anything. Bolt doesn't do anything. And it's pretty easy submit. We just need to put something down that's a moderate clock, which unfortunately is a 3 or 4 drop or a 2-card combo, and they're doing a 3-card combo. I think I just want to find a counter spell. Like, this is technically functional, but an Icefang Coatl and 2 Goldilocks are not a hand I want to keep every day. Yeah, this is a bit better. This is at least a force of negation, so tuck a fetch land. If they are on trying to do something fair, this coattle's going to need death touch. Like if they don't actually just go for the instant one. It's not very common that they do that, but it is something I have to consider. Revealing 2 Chancellors of the Tangle. All right, well, Mr. Cheating Grizzlebrand deck, I have Goldilocks. Fear me. I assume multiple people are going to have to read this card. All right, opponent, you're going to have 3 mana on turn 1. Which means you have 4 cards in hand at the moment. 1 needs to be an Eldritch Evolution, 1 or Neoform. 1 needs to be an Allosaurus Rider and pitch card. So you probably don't have counter magic. Because there's 5 unknowns. And you need 5 for the combo to actually go off. Oh no, you'll just exile the Chancellors of the Tangle. Okay. Not what I was expecting. This Valve Summer is actually really good for us because it means that our spells won't be able to be countered if they have a free counter spell. And meanwhile, we're going to get Goldilocks beats. Okay. I need to get a blue-red source here, so that's going to be a Steam Vents. And then I'm not going to cast this Coatl until I have at least 4 mana. In the meantime, I'm going to send in Goldilocks to do the job of heroes, and that's to slowly kill our opponent. I have faith in you, Goldilocks. No one expected you to come this far, but I have faith in you. Okay, so this is going to mean that if I run out the Coatl now, it can attack, and I'm also going to be able to hard cast Force of Negation with Veil of Summer, so... Crashing Footfalls. Goldilocks with a Flying Viper Snake. Seems fair. Alright, still following the same logic. If I can run out of Coatl now and have plenty of fun on the ground, so... Seasoned Pyromancer opens up some interesting decisions, but I'm not going to tap out and expose myself. I'm slowly winning this, and I'm doing it in the best way possible. Little itty bitty tiny creature beats. Although I might have suspended the Crashing Footfalls there. Wow, that was the first spell they've cast this game. So they gotta free cast it. Alright, well, I think they're gonna be sad, so... Mission accomplished. Show me big money. Veil of Summer, for those aren't familiar. Spells you control can't be countered and have hexproof, so... Yep, that's pretty much game. Alright. Let us continue. Nothing changes. We're just going to try to make it so that opponent loses game to themselves. That's the best we can really hope for. I really wish opponent would have let us kill them with Goldilocks beats. That would have been perfect Pacha, but I guess I'll just be happy with the fact that we technically won while attacking with Goldilocks for multiple turns. That's a Veil of Summer and Crashing Footfalls. Opponent kept their 7, though. This is a serviceable hand that's going to do something very slow. Opponent kept their 7 pretty quickly, so If I keep this, is attacking with 2/4/4 going to get me to go the distance? Likely not. If opponent's a little bit on the slower side like last game, I'm probably going to be fine. But this means I'm likely going to Veil of Summer on 2, hopefully draw. I don't even have a blue pitch. Yeah, we're going to go to 5. Alright, let's go to 4. This is about as good as it's going to get. So let's tuck a land, a Dreadhorde Arcanist, and another land. The one that can't generate red. This is basically what our 6-card hand was going to do, just without all the extra floof. Alright, there's Chancellor of the Tangle. Summoner's Pact, so I'm not even going to play this game. I suppose that's fair. Guess we'll see if they die. I mean, they got to look at 14 cards? Well, 16 including the 2 in hand. But like, if they just stop there... Nope, Summoner's Pact, so they have the Shoal. It's going to be gain 15. They're still 15 cards shy, 7 cards shy. I don't know if they can win with 7 cards left. They likely can. But with 2 Nourishing Shoals down, I'm okay to see. Oh yeah, they're going to draw and have 1 card left in their deck. That's fine. Opponent gets it. Not much to be said there. Regardless of our deck, we're not going to beat turn 1 on the play, so... I guess I could have looked a little bit deeper for the Force of Negation, but I was already at 4 cards, which means the odds of having me draw one of my 2 in my deck, as well as one of our blue pitches when we're not heavy blue, is probably a little bit on the weaker side. Wow, that's ugly. That is so ugly. That is also ugly. Alright, well that's kind of close. Let's tuck that, a land. I don't have a coatl, so I don't really care which land. Then I at least have a bolt until I get my 3rd land drop. Serum Visions off of Basic Island. Thinking Storm immediately. I just need to get red into play, so I'm going to Steam Vents tapped. If this is Storm, I can still untap and Lightning Bolt. Otherwise, this could potentially be a Delver deck, or Blue-White Control with kind of an awkward start. This is Blue-White Control. We're going to get 2 for 1 anytime we try to free cast, so that will be slightly awkward. Flooded Strands make me think it's Blue-White Control. It's turns. Okay. We might just barely be fast enough for turns. This Lightning Bolt is going to put them to 16, and then I get to make 2 Rhinos, and I only have to attack twice. It's going to put opponent at 6 lands, so their 7 drops aren't going to be usable. Lightning Bolt won't do anything to Thing in the Ice if they're running Thing in the Ice. Oh, I should have waited on that Bolt. I forgot they just took an extra turn. I was too busy trying to think through what Lightning Bolt could be pointed at. Jace here actually would have been a fantastic place to point that Lightning Bolt, but it looks like they're holding up Cryptic Command. Oh, boy. Okay, well, Electro Dominance at least allows me to put my Rhinos into play through Cryptic Command, more than likely. I think that's where I want to be at. You're still my main phase opponent. Not a huge fan of you doing something here. There you go. Dictate of Crucifix. Alright, well, as long as they're tapped down, I'm going to Electro Dominance. And I may as well shoot them for 1 because it's essentially free. On the off chance they're running Blood Moon in the side, typically it's too greedy, especially when you're playing lands like Miko Koro, but with them being able to make their fifth land drop and play Time Warp, I'm likely one turn too slow. Hey, look at that, Miko Koro. You know that's right. Them not snapping something here makes me think that they don't have Time Warp. They could potentially be on a Temporal Mastery or a Jace. Jace bounce a Rhino seems kind of tempting. And then that at least send 4 damage to Jace. Okay, that's fine. I was only going to attack with the Rhinos anyway. Although they are 2 land drops away from Time Warping, or Nexus of Fading. Ooh, Mystic Sanctuary. That's some spice. This is the new card that lets you put a card back on top of your deck, so... Oh, they're going to put Exhaustion back? That's fine. I guess Temporal Mastery exiles itself. That could be fun, though. I know that this with Time Warp was a pretty busted combo in EDH with the new... or with the old Moonfolk guy that bounces a land because you just repeatedly play the land and take an extra turn. All right. Opponent had exactly the right cards. That means that these 3 cards are either lands or very expensive Time Warps. But them getting Exhaustion back is going to make it so that I won't be able to attack next turn either. Yeah, Seasoned Pyromancer doesn't do a whole lot. I'm not going to be able to take 4 turns. Opponent might... Like, 4 turns might take place, but they're going to be mostly opponent's turns. So opponent casts Exhaustion here, and then they just need a Nexus, and it's pretty much said and done. Alright, there's a second land. Honestly, doesn't mean a whole lot. On the plus side, opponent is only seeing 2 cards at the moment. They don't have an active Jace or another Howling Mine effect. Yeah, I mean, you tapping down for Miko Koro is perfectly acceptable by my standards. Six mana. Part the Water Vel. Done. So they get to Exhaustion me again. They're not deterministic yet, but with 6 cards in hand, it's really hard to want to continue going about this. They're going to lock me down, and then I can As Foretold, but As Foretold doesn't get me very far. Alright, Temporal Mastery, that's good enough for me, because they also have the Exhaustion in hand, so what am I going to do? Cast a Seasoned Pyromancer? That's about as far as I can go. Force of Negation comes in. Veil of Summer likely comes in, just because we get Hexproofs that shuts off Giga Drouse as well as Exhaustion. Relic of Progenitus is a consideration. A lot of times they run Snapcaster as one of their few win conditions. They either have to fully plus Jace or they get a couple of beats in with Snapcaster Mage. Relic will at least exile the graveyard and also shuts off the new island plan. EE, I could technically put it on 3 or 2 and take out a Dictate or a Howling Mine. I don't really think that's good enough. I kind of just want to keep my hasty stuff together. Sinkhole's bad because it's not actually reach. It can technically hit a Jace that pluses, but the cost is pretty high, so I'm okay to trim that. Bloodbraid having haste is pretty good. Icefang Coatl, I might actually just trim on because being a 1-1 doesn't mean a whole lot. The Flaxen side of this is actually pretty decent to be able to destroy the one-off Dictative Crucifix or Howling Mine. Crashing Footfalls is still our faster win condition. I can trim an Ancestral Vision just because the opponent's going to let us draw cards. Seasoned Pyromancer is meh It might actually just be trimming Seasoned Pyromancer. And I think I'd rather keep the blue cards in now that I'm thinking about Force of Negation. We're already a little bit light on blue cards, so I don't necessarily want to trim blue cards. Electro Dominance can sneak things in instant speed, so that's probably fine, as well as being a 2-mana Crashing Footfalls. I don't know. I can see trimming some bolts because it's not creature removal. The reach doesn't feel very relevant, and then I really don't want to trade Blood Parade. The 3/2 is really relevant, and the 2 cards feels really relevant. Maybe it's just the relics aren't supposed to be in. Keep the other Lightning Bolt. I mean, Relic seems cute, but we don't want the game to go that long. We kind of just want a faster start. I don't really have anything here that pays off, and a single-colored land isn't going to get me very far. This also doesn't get me very far. Are we really going to lose to turns because we have to Mull to 5 twice? Like, Veil of Summer is a really good card, but if I don't have any pressure or any lands, I can't keep these hands. Alright, whatever. That's too slow, and we already have one of those. I'm just going to run out Goldilocks and chalk this one up to having a fun time. Hopefully they're on Howling Mine and not Dictate, just because Dictate they can flash in and still get a free card off of it. But I'm hoping to draw a red land here into a Crashing Footfalls. Okay, well, I mean, deck, you are being kind. I will give you that much. You're respecting my last wishes. Nope, not sacking you. Dreadhold Alcanist. I was really afraid of Spell Snare there for a moment. Spell Snare's making a really big comeback because of Stoneforge Mystic. Alright, well, I can't really complain. I got the red land. I'm going to attack for 2 for a couple of turns and then likely have opponent infinitely take turns. This looks like a Dictate. Look at that. I gotta get a Steam Vents now. Kind of shaping up. I honestly might fire this off just to fire it off. Yep. No miracle? That turn 2 miracle last game was also pretty backbreaking. We might have had a shot if it wasn't for the blind flip. That's why you put them in your deck, so I can't really complain. Kefnet. Okay. That basically functions like a miracle. So I'm going to get a Steam Vents and actually not cast because I'm likely not attacking. Yeah, Bolt doesn't really answer Kefnet. Land. Okay, that's kind of a thing. So I am going to Electro Dominance opponent for 0. And cast Crashing Footfalls. Then I'm going to attack opponent with both creatures because they're going to have to block the Flaxen Intruder, so I'll be able to keep my Dreadhorde Arcanist, and I'll be able to have a lot of power of Rhinos, which is going to need to put them on exactly Time Warp and going infinite. Otherwise, I'm attacking for 16. Well, 17. And given the fact they have a Dictate out, I might even be able to Bloodbraid next turn. If not, I get Electro Dominance for 1. So the blocker Rhino and take 14. Do have to admit, though, it'd be nice to kill Kefnet just to say I killed him. I can't do it, but it'd be nice to do it. Alright, they found a time warp. So if they draw the land, they get to pick up time warp and go at it again. Kefnet does actually represent a pretty quick clock. 7 cards in hand, 5 mana. I'm not very happy about this. Veil of Winter would be awesome if they're on Exhaustion or Giga Drouse. I mean, honestly, even just a blue card. Ouch! Oh, alright, well. Don't know why you'd bring in Echoing Truth versus us, because you've seen none of that yet, but you got us. Jace is active. We currently don't have a real clock. I can Blood Braid, but I need to find... Jeez, I don't even know. Bolt would handle Jace, but... Not a lot of things getting solved here. Well, that's at least a Blood Braid. And just for the Robins, the deck is going to be really mean and show us the last Force of Negation. Or an Electro Dominance. We've lost here. I'll give this one more turn, but we've lost. Because I don't have a blue card for the Force of Negation. I don't have a card to free cast with the Electro Dominance. If I attack in with Blood Braid, it just dies. Yep, and they get at least 2 turns there. Alright, well, Turns was another deck that looked pretty fun there, but it looks like we end up going 1-4. Temur free spells, I did have a decent amount of fun playing it, but I think I even mentioned this at the start. I know I told Bradwan when I was putting the deck together. We're doing a kind of fair thing, but using unfair cards to do it. So we're going to come up below the power level that I'd want or expect when we put this type of a shell together. Flaxen Intruder was cute. It was kind of fun to run Goldilocks through a league. I don't necessarily think I'd do it again. We also never got to get the 3 bears. Like, huge failure there. This is almost as bad as when I ran Dark Confidant with Emrakul. I just wanted to flip 15, and it never happened. But Ice Fang Coatl was one of the few things that kept this deck together. We had it removed most of the matches that we had it, but I also think the lands aren't right. I actually don't feel like I got a good enough grasp from this league tonight, just because things were so polarizing. There are games when I didn't have lands, and there are games when I ended up getting to like 7-8 lands by turn 7 or 8. I believe we're around 23. One of the future dev tickets, aside from fixing flip cards, is I want to put card counts for the different card types on these views. But the lands just weren't correct. We end up seeing a lot of lands, or a lot of cards with the Ancestral Vision, and when we draw 3, it does feel like there's a lot of lands in there. But there was something not quite right, and it might just be we need some Serum Visions in lieu of some of the free spells or something like that, or maybe even just take Goldilocks out. Again, Temur Free Spells is technically a deck that's out there and exists. I did base this list kind of off of it, but we had to play around the rules with the fact that Flaxen Intruder cannot be cast with As Foretold. It can off of Electro Dominance and Bloodbraid Elf, though. But we didn't really spin the wheel right. We didn't see a lot of the right things. Our opponents did run fairly well, but we're running a less than ideal deck, so I can't really hold that against everybody. I've had nights where I've ran hot too. So I do think this comes up a little shy. Those are a couple of places that need attention, but either way, like, it was fun. Like, chaining these spells together and trying to get them off at the right time, it did have very pleasurable play patterns. So I'd be willing to play something like this again. It's probably not going to be anytime soon, but those are at least my thoughts on it. But anyways, I'm thirteene, do a bunch of fun decks for Squirrel Dealer. We have a full history of them up on the website of jamming bad cards like Goldilocks into existing shells and playing a couple of different homebrews. This week, we're going to be playing a couple of fun things, but the ones that are likely coming up are going to be Phage tomorrow night, which is just going to be so much fun. We're going to try to one-shot people with Phage, but it's going to be a dumpster fire. Expecting to go 0-5 or 1-4 again tomorrow night, but fun deck. And then likely Death Cloud with the new Guru, Garrick. on Wednesday. But my schedule is over there on the left. In the coming weeks, we're probably going to start trimming Monday from the schedule, just so that we can try to get better decks going. But thanks for hanging out tonight, guys, and I will see you all tomorrow night.